Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my controversial ranking of Series 2 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And what I mean by controversial is, don't worry, I'm not going to be sat here saying like it's a terrible show, it was a terrible season, because it wasn't. It was a brilliant season. I actually think I had more episodes that I liked than didn't like to Series 1, which had a couple that I wasn't a big fan of. But when I say controversial, what I mean is, I think my ranking is going to be very different to most people's. I think that episodes I loved and didn't like are very different to what I see as quite common. Whether it's the podcast I listen to, whether it's Facebook groups, when people talk about episodes they like, or I think some of the Facebook groups do like watch parties, and people say, oh, it's my favourite episode. I think some of mine are going to be very controversial if anybody watches this. What I want to touch on briefly is if anyone's watching from the US and you watched all my Series 1 reactions but couldn't watch Series 2, I do apologise. There was copyright issues all the way throughout the series. I did try and reach out to the people that were blocking it and say, is there a way I can edit around it? Is there anything I can do to make it kind of better for you guys so that I can put it on for the US as well? But they weren't having it. So if you wanted to watch my Season 2 reactions, what I will say is there's a Patreon link down below, and the very lowest tier, which is £2 a month, or whatever that equals in your country, there's every reaction to Series 2, and I need to have a think about what I'm going to do with Series 3. Whilst I do want to put it on YouTube, if every episode is going to get blocked, I need to have a think about how I'm going to do it. But I will be doing it in some form. But I just wanted to say that if you do want to watch the Series 2 reactions, there is a link in my description box so you could watch them on my Patreon. Okay, jumping into the ranking, I'm a bit nervous about this one because I know how different my opinion is to a lot of people's, but let's jump into my least favourite episode of Series 2. Pretty obvious if you watch the reactions, but in 13th place, I've gone for the Kristen story, The Tale of Locker 22. An episode that I know is popular with a lot of people. It just, for me, isn't what I want from the show. When I watch Are You Afraid of the Dark, I want to be scared. I want to be creeped out. And I know I'm going to bite myself in the arse because there's an episode that I put quite high, which doesn't meet... There's a couple episodes probably quite high that doesn't meet any of that. It was time travel-y, which, if you watch other shows of mine, you know that's not my favourite genre of episodes. Time travel stuff doesn't interest me that much. It wasn't particularly scary. Wasn't that on board with the characters, and I don't know. I just didn't like the episode when I was a kid. I didn't like it this time when I rewatched it. I guess it just felt like an episode of a different show that was thrown into Are You Afraid of the Dark, and I don't know what I mean by that. But I just think that I wasn't surprised it was a Kristen episode. I think I said Kirsten before, but it's Kristen, isn't it? And her episodes for Series 1 were my favourite. But yeah, for me, Locker 22 just didn't grab me as much as any other episode on this series did. In 12th place, possibly maybe controversially, I don't know people's reactions to this episode yet, but I've gone for The Tale of Old Man Corcoran, season finale, told by Kiki. Now, I actually enjoy this episode. I enjoy every episode of the series, bar Locker 22, I didn't particularly like. So I think every episode from 12 and up is good, is enjoyable. But the reason that I put this one last is just because I don't see myself going to rewatch it. There wasn't a lot that really went down. A group of kids said, let's be hide and seek. There's a ghost. Turned out the kids were the ghost. And I know you could probably boil every episode down to a couple of lines, but there wasn't a lot of substance to the episode itself. It was just mostly in the graveyard, mostly playing hide and seek. We've got to show them it's real. We've got to show them it's real. He's not real. Story's not real. It's real. I've seen him. Don't tell me it's not real. There was just a lot of back and forward with the same sort of things. And yeah, whilst I enjoyed it and thought, oh, Mark Corcoran was kind of creepy, the twist was good. That was the best part of the episode, really. But on the most part, it was just kind of okay. Kind of bottom of the list, minus Locker 22. But again, not a bad episode. It just wasn't my favourite. In 11th place, this one is definitely controversial because I've seen this put on people's favourite episodes of the season. And that is The Tale of the Dream Machine. Now, before people jump on me and say how much they hate me, because I know The Tale of the Dream Machine is popular. Again, like Locker 22, there wasn't a lot of scares, which, like I said, my favourite couple episodes of the season, I would say are quite scary. But there are ones that aren't scary, that lean into being comedy, like Full Moon, which is coming up at some point. With Dream Machine, it was just kind of fell on that middle ground of it was just a story about this typewriter. Things happened. There was elements, I guess, trying to be scary with the vampire and the blind person. I can't remember what his name was. Where the boy was locked in the grave. But for me, I just wasn't invested. The characters were good, but the actual typewriter storyline, I didn't think was overly interesting. I felt like they could have pushed it really far. And there was plot holes like when they said that if you, I wish the typewriter had never done any of these stories, or whatever it was they said at the end. A lot of other stuff should have been undone that wasn't. There was plot holes for me. Whilst I liked the characters, I felt they could have pushed it a bit further with the dreams. And there was that weird dream sequence when he was floating in the clouds. I didn't like that. It made me feel just a bit weird. But it was good. It was okay. It was okay. It was okay. The character that I loved, that no one else seems to love, is that teacher that eats constantly. And she's eating in the kitchen, she's eating in the toilet, and she's eating in the gym. She is like how I feel. I love to eat all the time. So, yeah, I really liked her. So I do apologise if this is one of your favourite episodes. I know it's quite popular. But for me, it just wasn't my favourite at all. Okay, in 10th place, I got for Gary's story, Gary's only story, The Tale of the Magician's Assistant. This is definitely a tale of two halves. The first half of the story was just okay. The boy, Todd, was he called? Or Marco? No, Todd Marco, I think he was called. Getting to know the magician and learning magic tricks. The magician was a bit of a faded person, used to be a celebrity, now he's not. It was all kind of just meh. But when the supernatural stuff started coming, I got hooked. And I really enjoyed all the stuff with, I was going to say Gaknar, but that's a demon from Buffy. Shoot, I can't remember what it's called. The demon. Nak. V? No. Nazrak. Yes, I got it. When Nazrak came into it, I quite enjoyed that stuff, and it felt like the tension ramped up a little bit. But it just took a long time to get there, and I didn't really care about the magician. I thought he was weird that he was always in a robe around children. Was rude to the boy, expected him to do a lot without getting paid. And just like, he was rude to him because I used to be famous, now I'm not. And I'm like, that gives you no right to be rude to people. But it was okay. It just took too long to get good for me. If it was a lot more of the final 5-10 minutes stuff all the way throughout, I think I would have been invested. And whilst I appreciate there has to be a build up to Nazrak escaping from the wand and whatnot, it just took too long. And good effect at the end. I like Nazrak, even though it looked like the guy from Star Wars. Yeah, it was just a slow burn. Slow half, and then a good half. So yeah, for me it just falls into 10th place. Okay, oh god. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one, I think. In 9th place, an episode that I know is a lot of people's favourites again, is David's story, The Tale of the Shiny Red Bicycle. Don't hate me, let me explain. Again, it just falls into that category of my favourite episodes of You Afraid of the Dark are virtually always going to be scary ones. And A Shiny Red Bicycle, I didn't find scary. I know some people find the ghost of the friend scary. It was kind of creepy, but also made no sense. Because this ghost of this boy that died appeared to his friend that was there when he died to warn him that the same thing was going to happen to his brother. Great. But every time he appeared, he was like, Mark, whatever his name was, I am a ghost. But then when he actually came to the point where he needed to tell him the story, the information, he was like, hi, I'm here, your brother's in danger. He could talk normally. So it made no sense why he was hovering around outside the windows, doing the spooky stuff. That kind of spoiled a lot of the episode for me because I like an episode that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to eat my words for that, but I like an episode where the rules make sense. And whilst I did love this episode for the fact that it touched on grief, and it was quite a heavy episode for You Afraid of the Dark. Like, this boy was really dealing with something traumatic that he went through as a child, and that was great. His parents, bit questionable, but that's You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps trope. Questionable parents with the fact that they should have taken him to see a doctor, and they didn't, till it was, like, not too late, but till it was later than it should have been. Yeah, it was good. It was just okay. I know a lot of people love it. It didn't grip me a lot because I didn't care about the ghost stuff. The stuff with the boy and the brother, saving the brother, was really great and I guess emotional. For me, it just wasn't in 9th place. Don't hate me for putting it so low. I know people love it, and I appreciate that people love it. It is good. I think it probably was hampered by the fact that the copy that I watched had some weird glitches with it, and it was hurting my eyes. But yeah, so I apologise, but for me, it's in 9th place. Falling to 8th place, I've gone for a Betty Ann story, first Betty Ann story in this list, The Tale of the Whispering Walls. This episode is such a weird one, because again, I don't think it's a popular one. It had such potential that in some ways it really didn't live up to. So, there was this really creepy stuff happening in this house, but a lot of it did not make sense. I think that's why a lot of people don't like it. And where I would have probably put it higher because I love the look of the house and all the creepy paintings, the empty paintings where the people appear, the weird party room, that when the face was in the wall with the candles. Great, I love all that stuff. But a lot of it made no sense. Like, why was there a scene in a nursery where the woman had a baby of snakes? Makes no sense. Why did the thing appear in the wall? Makes no sense. If it was a ghost, wanted to trap people and kill them or whatever in the house so that it has more ghosts, it just didn't make sense, some of the stuff that was going on. It just didn't fit together. And that's why I would have put it higher, because I actually loved the episode. I enjoyed the stuff in the diner with the weird people from different time periods. But, as I keep saying, that also didn't make sense when they were trapped in the house. So why were they in this diner as well? Because if they could go from different places, why would they not go elsewhere? There was a weird wind. There was just a lot of disparate parts that didn't mesh together to make a cohesive unit. And it was good. It had a lot of potential. I really enjoyed the spooky stuff. And the guy that looked like the dude from My Chemical Romance in the Welcome to the Black Parade video. And I liked the characters, how they actually became closer throughout the story and supported each other. If the episode had made sense, I think it would have been a lot better for a lot of people, but it was just a bit of a confusing episode overall. Okay, in 7th place, it was the very first episode, Kristen's first episode, The Tale of the Final Wish. This is an episode that I loved as a child, and I really enjoyed it again, but I had more issues with it as an adult. Primarily, and people are going to hate me for this, I know, but it was Bobcat Goldthwait that put it lower in the ranking for me. I like him as an actor, he's funny, but his voice is quite irritating to my ears, and any sort of kind of spookiness of this girl's fallen into this dreamland where all the people that she knows are now asleep because she wished them away. She got dragged under the bed, it was creepy. There's all these doors where she goes into other fairy tales where there's like Queen of Hearts with an axe, the witch from Hansel and Gretel trying to boil her, the Queen from Snow White with the apple. All that stuff is kind of creepy. And then Bobcat Goldthwait starts talking. And I do enjoy it because I enjoy his performance. But it kind of like, I get taken out of the story at that point because of his voice. But it's just a different feel for that part of the episode. I think I like it a lot as well because I connected with the girl. I think she's called Jill. As someone who is, I feel like I'm older than the hills, but I am 30, which I know is old for reactors or whatever, but I enjoy watching stuff from my childhood, like Are You Afraid of the Dark? And every now and again, I read a Goosebumps book, because I was addicted to Goosebumps as a child. It really made me love horror and sci-fi and stuff. And so every now and again, when I'm feeling down or I can't sleep, whatever, I'll read a Goosebumps book. I love the books from being a child. I think they have a great part of my life. I think they have a great part to play in the world. But I know people will probably look at me and go, oh, he reads Goosebumps, he's 30, like what the hell? So I connected with Jill because she was a girl that liked to read fairy tales and everyone told her she was too old to read them. And I feel like if the last part of the episode was scarier, like it promised to be, like she got dragged under the bed, that was really creepy. The man appeared from under the bed, Sandman, and then she was like sucked up into the air and under the bed. Really well done. I just feel like because of his voice, it became more of a funny episode than a scary episode, and that was a shame to me. If they'd put a really creepy voiced actor, that would have been brilliant and really would have wrapped the episode up completely. I think I would have put it higher then at that point. But overall, I'd say it's a really strong episode. Tell the Final Wish. Okay, this is another controversial one because I know people have it a lot lower. But in 6th place, I've gone for Kristen's episode, The Tale of the Frozen Ghost. Now, I actually agree with a lot of people who don't like this episode. When I see comments on Facebook or podcasts or whatever about people who don't like the Frozen Ghost, I understand and agree with most of the points in that it's not particularly scary, and the ghost is just a boy who stands there going, I'm cold, over and over again, and it is repetitive. Where I like the episode is more from the comedy parts. So I like Melissa Joan Hart as an actress. I've always thought she was quite good at comedy, and just little facial expressions and things that she does as an actress is very funny. The boy who she's babysitting is a bit pompous and a bit full of himself and very sheltered, but I enjoy it. It's a comedy thing. I enjoy his performance. It makes me laugh. And the ants are very funny together. Like, they're not meant to talk about ghosts, but one of them always brings up ghosts. And how she's like, we're trying to be good hosts. Don't talk about that. I said hosts, not ghosts. And they're so bad at keeping the stuff quiet. But I just enjoyed all their performances. The ghost stuff was okay. I had a couple of okay moments. I like when he's outside the window. I like when he keeps appearing out in the woods. And it was a really dark story when you actually think about what happened. Was it he's a boy that saw a criminal who, like, did they do a train robbery? Robbed some money? But he saw the criminal hide the money. So the criminal chased him and then he froze to death because the criminal ripped off his coat that kept him warm. Really dark backstory. Wish they'd done more with the ghost, but I find it quite a funny episode. And I understand why people don't like it, so I'd never blame people for putting it low on the list. But I enjoyed myself with the tale of the frozen ghost. Okay, if you've not tuned off already, I think my top 5 might tune some people off. So in 5th place, I've gone for Frank's episode, The Tale of the Full Moon. Now, this is where I said before, I'm going to eat my own words, in that I like episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark that are scary. This episode is not scary. This episode is so not scary that for me it really works because it leans into weirdness and zaniness and the 50s aesthetic. I called it 60s when I watched it, but I meant 50s. The mum who's just got the weird big hair, that weird food she was serving, the cardboard cut out of a fishbowl, the music choices. I mean, I did hear a good opinion on it that it is trying to lean into the old 50s B movies or whatever, where it was more comedy or bad acting and stuff that's meant to be scary, but it's not. So for that, I actually enjoyed it, and I just thought it leaned so far into being weird that it worked, that it wasn't scary, you know? I hope that makes sense. Because when episodes try and be scary, but are just a bit odd and it doesn't work, that works less for me than something that's like, I'm going to be a comedy episode, let's just go for it as much as we can. And so I think like all the stylistic choices, and the acting choices, and the music choices were brilliant. Yeah, I can understand why people probably don't like it, because they're probably like me. They like more scary stuff, and this was far from that. But I guess he got some scares with the werewolf when he's chasing the kids around the house, but even then he was a bit like, a bit too over the top, and he's got his little lair, and then the comedy ending where they all become happy family. Again, I don't think it's a popular episode, but I loved it. Wild ride with the Tale of the Full Moon. In 4th place, I have gone for David's episode, The Tale of the Dark Dragon. And this is one that surprised me that I got it so high, which sounds weird to say, but it's not the kind of storyline that I normally like, where I'm trying to be hotter so I can be with the girl that I like. And not even the girl that I like, because I think he secretly liked the librarian, but so he can get with a popular girl. I'm like, I don't care. But in some ways, that made the episode, because you're not really rooting for the main guy, because you know that he's doing a thing that's not right. Like, he should just accept that he is who he is. He has that limp from the accident. He's a nice guy, and everyone treated him great. All the guys in school that would normally be bully characters treated him with respect. The girl that was really fancied him treated him with respect. But I just got really hooked on the love quadrangle that was here. The main guy, the librarian girl, the girl that he's trying to look good for, and her boyfriend, on and off boyfriend. I got really hooked on this love quadrangle and who he was going to get with who, the betrayals, the fact that he was just being this person that wasn't really him. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing Sardo again, and the potion was cool. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this episode overall. I got really hooked on both the supernatural aspects and also the love dramas that were going on throughout the episode. Okay, top 3 now, and controversially, because again I don't think this is a popular episode, I've gone for Betty Ann's Other Story, The Tale of the 13th Floor. I will happily admit that a lot of why I love this episode is nostalgia. I adored this episode as a child because it was, kids go to like a big toy factory. Got really excited for that as a child, and I loved it. And yeah, it was just fun. And there is creepy elements to it. The guy appearing on the TV when she's asleep, and there's always this undercurrent of something's going on that we're not being told about. You can read into like this: these kids are being trapped in this place, and they're being kind of experimented on with these toys. And obviously, it turns out that they're trying to test her acclimatizer to her powers and to the environment of the alien planet that she's from. Because she's an alien that they left years ago, but the kids fight, escape, and they leave her there. They're like, we'll come back for you in 10 years. Now, don't get me wrong, there's plot holes aplenty in this episode. Like, there's this robot guy, but the others are just aliens. So why is he a robot? The toys are not toys. There's, like, dice that just float around. There's statues of dogs or figurines of dogs. There's bowling pins that are attached to one of those things that look like, like the boxing people that do that with the little thing that hangs down. There's like bowling pins on one of them. A lot of weirdness. So I think that's a big part of why people don't like the episode, which is that it's not scary and the toy store isn't good. It's just odd. But I just really enjoy it. I think it's a really fun story. I like watching the kids explore this toy factory, and I think, like I say, nostalgia plays a big point in why I love the 13th floor. Okay, in second place, I think the top 2 episodes for me are quite scary. And so in second place, we have for David's story, The Tale of the Hatching. An episode I don't think is that popular from the podcast I listen to, but I generally find it really creepy. And again, I think it's part of that situation where nostalgia plays a huge part of it, where it scared me so much as a child that it scares you as an adult. Like, I got a friend who was terrified of E.T. as a child, so now he's still a bit uneasy about E.T. stuff. And I think this plays a big part in that as a kid, it scared me so much. Those fears are still there. Whether it's a fear of being away from family, from my parents, being in a new school, being in a boarding school, and living there. And not just living there for a couple of weeks, going home at the weekend. Or not just living there for a month or whatever, and that's it. For living there for 6 months. 6 months? That's a lot for a kid to deal with. And on top of that, there's just the creepy kids walking around at night, the eggs, the monster. I genuinely love that scene with the monster. I don't know what everyone thinks of it, but I think it's really well done with the smoke in the background and you slowly see it crawling out through the smoke. I think it's brilliant. And I wish more people loved this episode, because for me, it's literally an episode that I knew was coming, because it's one of the ones that I remember so much as a kid. I remember Laughing in the Dark. I remember Hatching. I think Ghastly Grinner, which is the later series, and a few others that I have like a really vivid memory of. And I just really love it, and I hope people comment on this and say, I really love Hatching too, because I know it's not that popular, I don't think, with fans. I don't know, but I think it's really good. Okay, so if you're paying attention, you've already worked out what my favourite episode of the entire season is. So for Series 2, my favourite episode is Frank's first episode, The Tale of the Midnight Madness. A popular episode, a really popular episode. I think a lot of people will have this as their favourite. I just know that people love it, because whether it's like the cinema atmosphere, which I enjoy things that take place in cinemas, which is not very much, but I quite like a cinema environment. It's quite fun with the movies on the screen and the smell of popcorn. I can picture myself being there. And then all the old movies, well, the one old movie that we see that really brings everyone in. And then when that creepy vampire comes out the screen, he's so well done with the veins on his head, the long fingernails, the white face and the teeth. It's just a really well designed monster. Dr. Vink's in it. Always good to see Vink with a ver. And yeah, it's a shame we only get him once a season, but I think people might like him more because we only see him every now and again. Whereas if he was in it all the time, people might not like him as much. So great to see Dr. Vink. He was a fun character in this one. A little bit more jovial this time than he was in Phantom Cab. Even though he's meant to be threatening towards the end, and that I got so many more movies. For me, it was very much like, okay, well, you know, the guy went back on the deal that he made. You take over that cinema. You go for it, Vink. You go for it. And yeah, just all the scenes where the vampire Nosferatu goes around, attacks the guy who runs the cinema, and he's so creepy the way he moves. I think that's what I love about it so much. As well as liking the main two characters, I enjoyed their relationship as friends, but clearly they want to be more than friends, but don't want to admit it. He moves kind of like Freddy Krueger-ish when you see shadows of just like the hand on the wall, which is very Nosferatu. It's just a very classic Are You Afraid of the Dark monster. Very famous episode of the show for people who know the show, and that's why my favourite episode of Series 2 is The Tale of the Midnight Madness. Looking quickly at who told what story this season, and we've only got 6 people this time because Eric disappeared into oblivion, into thin air. God knows where Eric went, but I'm intrigued to do this because last season I think my least favourite storyteller was Kristen. My favourite storyteller was Betty Ann. So I want to see if that changes season by season. So, in this season, Kristen told Final Wish, Locker 22, and The Frozen Ghost. Frank told Midnight Madness and Full Moon. Betty Ann told 13th Floor and Whispering Walls. Kiki told Dream Machine and Old Man Corcoran. David, who is the only other one other than Kristen, had 3 stories. David and Kristen sitting in a tree. Told Dark Dragon, Shiny Red Bicycle and Hatching. And Gary, poor Gary, got Magician's Assistant. Now, looking at my list, and I have to try and be fair this time because even though Kristen episode Locker 22 was my least favourite episode of the season, she had some good episodes. I quite like Frozen Ghost and I like Final Wish. So unfortunately, I'll probably have to go that my least favourite storyteller overall of the season was Kiki. because neither Dream Machine or Old Man Corcoran are my favourite. They were okay episodes, and I know Dream Machine is really popular, and I get it. I get why it's popular, because it's more like fantasy than it is horror. And Old Man Corcoran is more horror. But just as the two, none of the episodes were my favourite. None of the episodes that I'm dying to rewatch. Like Old Man Corcoran and Dream Machine, they're just two episodes that were okay. I'm more likely to rewatch Dream Machine than I am Old Man Corcoran, which is why that came in 10th rather than 11th. And yeah, so overall I'd say for this season, not Kristen, even though she took the bottom spot with episodes, she had some higher up ones. Kiki was my least favourite storyteller of season 2. In terms of my favourite, well, this is hard. Because it's either Frank, because he's got Midnight Madness, which was in number 1, and Full Moon, which I put in 5th. Betty Ann's got my 3rd favourite, as well as Whispering Walls, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th. I think it's got to be, or it's got to be David. Because David's got 2 high ones. He's got the Hatching Dark Dragon, but he's also got Shiny Red Bicycle, which I didn't love. I'm going to go with Frank, because his 2 episodes were in my top 5, whereas 2 David ones were in top 5, but he also had an episode that I had quite low. So I think like if you worked at averages, Frank would be higher than David. Yeah, so I'm going to say my favourite storyteller for season 2 is Frank. He had Midnight Madness, which was my favourite episode, a brilliant episode of the show, classic episode, probably one of my favourite episodes from memory of the whole show, but I can worry about that conversation when we get to the end of the season 7. But he also told Full Moon, which I loved for its comedy, its weirdness, and just its overall zany, crazy 50s comedy, B-movie, weird aesthetic, which is not for everybody, I get that, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was my ranking and review of season 2 of Are You Afraid of the Dark? I hope you don't hate me more than you did before, because I know my ranking is going to be quite unpopular for a lot of people. There's episodes that I love which are higher than what other people have them, and there's episodes that I don't particularly love which are people's favourites, so this could be really controversial, and please don't unsubscribe, or please do subscribe for future episodes if you enjoyed the video. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, touched on Series 3 if you didn't hear my bit at the start. I do want to do Series 3, and I will be going into it soon. I just need to have a think about how I'm going to do it, because every episode of You Afraid of the Dark tends to get blocked from the YouTube at the moment. Like I say, every episode I am re-uploading to Patreon. If you do want to watch them, I put it on the lowest possible tier. I've only got 2 tiers right now, but I put it on a £2 tier. If you want to watch every episode of Season 2 of You Afraid of the Dark, you can subscribe down below, even if you just do it for like a month, and you get episode reactions to all the episodes of Season 2. And I'll be definitely doing Series 3 onwards on Patreon. I need to have a think about YouTube and how I'm going to go about that. I'll let you know as soon as I know, and hopefully I'll see you in Series 3. I hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, my name is Scott. Hope you're well. Take care of yourselves and staying safe. Let me know your rankings down below, what your favourite episodes are, what your least favourite episodes are, and how much you disagree with my list. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And I'll hopefully see you all in Series 3 of You Afraid of the Dark. Bye, guys, and see you soon. Take care.